everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Isis and this is IsisSaysHi. I like to make a lot of research videos about topics that matter to me and sometimes I vlog. I'm gonna see how much I can try to do within 30 minutes because I do have 2 jobs if you didn't know. So my second job is coming up, so I have to be on it. Thank you for 100 subscribers. I'm like, it's so weird but so cool. It is really small in like the range of things, I would say, but there is something just so exciting about being able to reach that milestone. I think that's cool, and I feel like 100 subs, as I've been hearing from all these like YouTube gurus on how to get more subs, hitting 100 is really great and really helps to like kind of set you up for success, I guess. So I'm excited to see whatever that means. Thank you all for subscribing. I am gonna have a vlog up. It's not gonna be now. It's probably gonna be sometime in April or March. I don't know yet, but I'm excited about that one. So be ready. What is Black History Month? Each February, the United States celebrates Black History Month, a month-long celebration of African American or Black history, Black in general, history and achievements. The theme for this year's is Black Health and Wellness, which honors medical scholars and healthcare providers, not only Black scholars and medical practitioners who are in Western medicine, but also through the African diaspora. And so that includes birth workers, doulas, midwives, naturopaths, herbalists. I want a doula when I get pregnant. Not anytime soon, as I don't even have a man. I've seen videos like that mention and have doulas, and I love them. I want one. I know they're probably really expensive, but I'll figure it out. I want one. All right, moving on. The theme for 2022 looks at the activities, rituals, and initiatives that Black communities have undertaken to achieve success. The first thing that you should know is that Black History Month was actually Black History Week or Negro History Week. But if you're not Black, you don't say that. And in 1915, 50 years after the 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery in the United States, Carter G. Woodson traveled from Washington, D.C. to Chicago to take part in a state-sponsored national commemoration of the 50th anniversary of emancipation. Thousands of Black folks traveled from all over the country to see the exhibits that highlight their people's progress since slavery was abolished. Despite the fact that the event was held at the Coliseum, the site of the Republican National Convention in 1912, an overflow crowd of 6,000 to 12,000 people waited outside to see all of the exhibits. Carter G. Woodson had envisioned a week-long celebration to encourage public schools to teach Black history in a coordinated manner. He established Negro History Week in the second week of February, and Woodson's goal from the start was to establish Black history as a serious field of study in the field of history. The goal was to focus and broaden the nation's consciousness, not to impose restrictions. In February 1926, Woodson, through his association, issued a press release announcing Negro History Week. Woodson built the Negro History Week around traditional days of commemorating the Black past, well aware of the pre-existing celebrations. He wasn't asking the public to start a new tradition, but rather to broaden their understanding of Black history. Woodson was astounded by the overwhelming support. Negro History Week was held in schools and in front of the general public across the country. The 1920s were known as the Decade of the New Negro, a term coined to describe the post-World War I generation's growing racial pride and consciousness. Over a million African Americans from the rural South had moved to the nation's major cities as a result of urbanization and industrialization, and as the Black middle class grew, so did their participation in and consumption of Black literature and culture. Teachers demanded materials to instruct their students, and progressive whites stepped forward and endorsed the efforts. Woodson and the association had scrambled to meet the demand. They had chosen a theme for Negro History Week, and they provided study materials like pictures, teacher lessons, historical plays, and posters of significant dates and people. High schools and progressive communities formed Negro history clubs, which were stocked with a steady supply of information. ASNLH, that was the association that a lot of the work Woodson was going through, had formed a lot of different branches from coast to coast to serve history buffs' desire to participate in the re-education of Black people and the nation. Woodson also founded the Negro History Bulletin in 1937 at the urging of Mary McLeod Bethune, down to focus on the annual theme. Like most ideas that resonate with the spirit of the times, Negro History Week proved to be more dynamic than Woodson or the association could control, and by the 1930s, Woodson was fed up with intellectual grifters, both black and white, springing up all over the place, hoping to profit from the public's interest in Black history. He warned teachers against inviting speakers who lacked the same level of knowledge as the students. Publishing houses that had previously shied away from Black authors and topics rushed to get books on the shelves and into schools. Instant experts appeared everywhere, and mushroom presses published non-scholarly works. I feel like nothing can escape capitalism. Woodson believed that the weekly celebrations, not the study or celebration of Black history, would eventually come to an end. Woodson, in fact, never thought of Black history as a one-week event. He pushed for schools to use Negro History Week to show what students had learned throughout the year. In the same vein, he established a year-round Black Studies extension program for adults. He looked forward to the day when an annual celebration would no longer be required. Woodson believed that Black history was too important to America and the world to be crammed into a limited time frame. He even suggested Negro History Week be replaced by Negro History Year. Black teachers in the South frequently taught Negro history as a complement to U.S. history. One early supporter of the movement claimed that his teacher would hide Woodson's textbook beneath his desk to avoid the principal's wrath. Schools in the South incorporated Black history into the curriculum to promote social change during the Civil Rights Movement. The intellectual uprising known as the Negro History Movement was part of a larger effort to change race relations. The study and celebration of Black history changed significantly during the 1960s. Negro History Week would be well on its way to becoming Black History Month by the end of the decade. Even before Dr. Woodson's death, the shift to a month-long celebration had begun. Blacks in West Virginia, where Woodson frequently spoke, began to observe February as Negro History Month as early as the 1940s. In the mid-1960s, a now forgotten cultural activist in Chicago, Frederick H. Hammurabi, began celebrating Negro History Month. As young Blacks on college campuses became more aware of their ties to Africa in the late 1960s, Black History Month began to replace Negro History Week. Younger intellectuals within the association prodded Woodson's organization to change with the times as part of the awakening. They were successful. The association used its power to institutionalize the shifts from a week to a month, and from Negro history to Black history, 50 years after the first celebration. Schools and communities across the country were inspired to hold local celebrations, form history clubs, and host performances and lectures as a result of the event. Negro History Week had evolved into Black History Month on many college campuses by the late 1960s, thanks in part to the civil rights movement, and a growing awareness of Black identity. Kent State is documented as one of the first colleges to commemorate Black History Month. In 1976, President Gerald Ford decreed Black History Month, encouraging people to seize the opportunity to honor the too often overlooked accomplishments of African Americans in every field of endeavor throughout our history. Today, Black History Month is a time to recognize Black folks' contributions and legacy throughout history and society, from activists and civil rights pioneers like Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, Marcus Garvey, Big Up Jamaica, Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, and Rosa Parks, to leaders in business, politics, science, and culture. Since 1976, every president of the United States has declared February to be Black History Month and has included a specific theme. In 2016, Barack Obama, the nation's first Black president, issued his final proclamation in honor of Woodson's initiative, which is now considered one of the country's oldest organized historical celebrations. So I just want to say, Carter G. Woodson wanted Black History Month to end because he wanted Black history to be so ingrained into American society. I know I just separated it, but you get it. He wanted Black history to be so ingrained into our society, wherever that might be, that there wouldn't be a need for Black History Month because we wouldn't have to take out a month to fully devote and recognize Black folks. I hope that makes sense. I was one of the folks who thought that February was too short of a month, and I thought it was this government craziness. And then I looked at the reason why, and I'm like, oh, February was chosen primarily because the second week of the month coincides with the birthdays of both Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass. Lincoln was influential in the emancipation of the slaves, to freedom! And Douglas, who was a former slave, was a prominent leader in the abolitionist movement, which fought to end slavery. So people don't really regard Abraham Lincoln as anti-racist anymore. Lincoln and Douglas were each born in the second week of February, so it was traditionally a time when African Americans would hold celebrations in honor of emancipation. Douglas's exact date of birth wasn't recorded because he was born enslaved. He recognized February 14th as his birthday. So that's why that exists. So Woodson created Negro History Week around the two birthdays as a way of commemorating the Black past. Those dates were already pretty much celebrated among African Americans. This just really solidified those celebrations. Canada commemorates Black History Month in February. The UK and Ireland celebrated in October. And I would love to know why. I haven't looked that up. Since Lincoln's assassination in 1865, the Black community, along with Republicans, who were abolitionists at the time, had been celebrating the fallen president's birthday. And since the late 1890s, Black communities across the country had been celebrating Douglas's. So we're going to talk about Carter G. Woodson, finally. Carter Goodwin Woodson was born on December 19th, 1875 in New Canton, Virginia, to Anna Eliza Riddle Woodson and James Woodson. The fourth of 7 children, young Woodson worked as a sharecropper and a miner to help his family. He began high school in his late teens and proved to be an excellent student, completing a 4-year course study in less than 2 years. After attending Berea College in Kentucky, Woodson worked in the Philippines as an education superintendent for the U.S. government. He earned his bachelor's and master's degree at the University of Chicago before entering Harvard. In 1912, 3 years before founding the association that he was part of, he became only the second African American, after W.E. Du Bois, to earn a doctorate from Harvard. Woodson was one of the founding members of the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History, which is ASNLH, but that's changed to the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, which is ASALH, with the purpose of bringing African American historical contributions to the forefront. In 1916, Woodson created the scientific journal, the Journal of Negro History, and in 1937, he founded the Negro History Bulletin to assist educators with African American studies. In 1921, Woodson founded the African American-owned Associated Publishers Press. He also held a number of academic positions before becoming a dean at Howard University and the West Virginia Collegiate Institute, and he was also principal of the Armstrong Manual Training School in Washington, D.C. Like Du Bois, Woodson believed that young African Americans in the early 20th century were not being taught enough of their own heritage and the achievements of their ancestors. As early as 1920, Woodson urged Black civic organizations to promote the achievements that researchers were uncovering. To get his message out, Woodson had first turned to his fraternity, Omega Psi Phi, which created Negro History Week and Literature Week in 1924, which they renamed Negro Achievement Week. But Woodson wanted a wider celebration. He decided the ASNLH, and he chose February as the month because it was already celebrated by the Black community, and of course because it represented Frederick Douglass's and Abraham Lincoln's birthdays. As schools and other organizations across the country embrace Woodson's vision, he and his colleagues battled to meet the demand for course materials and other resources. Over the course of his career, Woodson had published over a dozen books, the most famous of which is The Miseducation of the Negro. Miseducation has become essential reading at many colleges and institutions due to its focus on the Western indoctrination system and African American self-empowerment. A Century of Negro Migration was another one of those books. The History of the Negro Church and The Negro in Our History are some of his other works. Woodson also wrote books for children in elementary and high school. He had died on April 3rd, 1950, after a long and distinguished career during which he was praised for his vision. His achievements are also remembered through the Carter G. Woodson Institute for African American and African Studies at the University of Virginia, as well as Dr. Carter G. Woodson African American Museum in St. Petersburg, Florida. Final notes! If you want to know some ways to celebrate Black history, I left a link in the description that talks more about it. It's from a Salesforce blog, and it has 8 ways to honor Black History Month. I also have my sources down below, so anything that I used in my research. It was pretty small because everything kept repeating itself as per usual. I'm really happy that I got to learn more about this. I don't know if I said it in the beginning. I can't remember. For starters, we have 6 minutes left for time. We love that for me. Secondly, I have 2 jobs, and one of my second jobs is doing tech support for a school. The teacher kind of went on a rant about Black History Month and why people are complaining about it being the shortest month in February and not really realizing the significance of it. And I was like, I'm one of those people. So I decided, okay, well, let me look at the significance of it. Why is it in February? I truthfully thought it was something that the government decided to kind of stamp in February. As with a lot of policies, public policies, there's always a catch. Anytime it's dealing with marginalized people, there's always a catch in those policies, and so that's what I thought. I thought the catch was that it would be in the shortest month of the year, and I'm learning that that's not actually it. It's more of the significance of the 2 people who Black folks had most celebrated at the time that it was created, and I'm really happy that I learned that. Do I agree that it's in February? Absolutely not. I wish it was in a longer month, but do I understand the significance, and does that make that feel a little bit less annoying? Absolutely. And I think that's the point of research. We learn these new things and we're like, oh, now you have the foundation. You can make better choices because of it. So I'm very happy. Yeah, I'm gonna go to my second job now. I have 4 minutes. Have a great day. Night. It's 5 o'clock here. Okay. See you later.